What's up and welcome to My Point of View. I am your fat and opinionated host, and we've talked about this a couple of times on this channel. But Bryan Kohberger is building quite the fan base. You know, I cover true crime pretty often. It's not the only type of topics I cover, but I've covered enough cases and I've looked into enough cases in my life to know that these serial killers and these weirdo individuals that are involved in these high-profile, unaliving cases, they are always idolized and sexualized by a certain portion of our society. Not a single case goes by without some weirdo, crawling out of the woodwork, professing their love for a killer or what have you. And when it comes to Bryan Kohberger, he hasn't just attracted one or two weirdos. He has an entire fan base. He has entire fan groups popping up online that literally come together as a community and they discuss the type of weird, nasty sexual things they would like to do with Bryan Kohberger. I mean, they have formulated quite a group. They are even raising money together to put on Bryan Kohberger's books in jail, to put on his commissary. They're also trying to send him books, all types of stuff. He has this fan base that's already built up around him. Mind you, this case is not an old case. It's a relatively new case. Yet for some reason, I think this case had all the makings of everything that would attract people to the case. That's why the Idaho 4 case got so big. And I guess when a case gets that big, you attract even more weirdos. And that's what's happening here. And now, speaking of weirdos, BTK, the BTK killer, he's spoken out quite a bit about Bryan Kohberger. In fact, he was like a regular pundit when it comes to this topic. News outlets are reaching out to BTK behind bars, asking him his thoughts and opinions on this case, which I think is really weird. Well, his daughter, BTK's daughter, has also been chiming in on this case, and she says that fans are feeding Bryan Kohberger's ego. Let's go ahead and dive right into this article. The daughter of the BTK serial killer says Bryan Kohberger's fans and supporters risk feeding his ego. He has yet to enter a plea to the charges of unaliving 4 University of Idaho students, but a lawyer who previously represented him said he was eager to be exonerated. The case has garnered widespread publicity and attention on social media, with some coming to Kohberger's defense. On Facebook, there are a number of groups calling for justice for Kohberger, and at least one woman who has been sending him love letters. Carrie Rawson said anyone posting messages in support of killers and alleged killers is playing into their hands. They should not be celebrated or worshipped, she says. In doing so, people are only feeding their egos. Rawson said fan mail began arriving for her father, Dennis Rader, who called himself BTK for bind, torture, and kill, at the Wichita jail where he is being held shortly after his arrest in February 2005. He's perpetuated it with his own prolific writing, artwork, and making back-end deals through the murder memorabilia black market, she said. In some cases, particularly with women over the years, I've seen unhealthy attachments arise with my father, she added, noting that some may be hybristophilia, I probably butchered that, defined as a sexual interest in and attraction to those who commit crimes. Bottom line, my father is a dangerous sexual sadistic psychopath, a pathological liar, and a narcissist, she said. People need to remember that when communicating with him and others like him, while people need to remember that when communicating with him and others like him. While correspondence is monitored in jails and prisons, Rawson is concerned that officials are not able to check everything thoroughly. Love letters to a prisoner are frankly quite low on their list of concerns, and should be, when taking into consideration of much larger needs, she says. However, she's expressed concern that those sending the letters may not be aware of the risk they are creating for themselves by doing so. I'm not sure that fans writing someone like my father or potentially Kohberger are aware that in fact they are putting their own lives at risk by sharing their addresses and private information, she said. Kohberger, formerly a graduate student at Washington State University in Pullman, is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. A preliminary hearing is scheduled to begin in late June. Now, I have some thoughts about this. For one, I totally agree with everything that the BTK killer's daughter is saying here. What's her name? Carrie Rawson. I agree with everything Carrie is saying here. But when she says that fans are feeding into Bryan Kohberger's ego by writing him letters, I find it kind of ironic because in a way, aren't people feeding into Carrie's ego by constantly referring to her when it comes to these true crime cases? Aren't these news outlets feeding into Carrie's ego? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I have nothing against this woman. But who is she? Why should we care what she has to say about the Kohberger case? Now, some may say, well, why did we care about what you have to say about the Kohberger case? And I agree, you're right. But you don't see me out here in the mainstream media doing all these interviews, acting as if I'm a professional on this case when I'm not. And like I said, I have nothing against her, and if she wants to weigh in on the case, that's fine. But in my opinion, when we're talking about feeding into people's egos, I kind of feel like people feed into her ego when they constantly go to her for her thoughts about cases like this, when in reality, I mean, what do you know about this? You're just a serial killer's daughter. And yeah, maybe you have some unique stories and a unique perspective because you're a serial killer's daughter. But at the end of the day, have you not attached yourself to true crime cases for your own ego and for your own grift? Now, some people may not like what I have to say right there, or some people may not like what I said right there, and that's okay, because we're all entitled to our own opinions. Like I said, I don't have anything against this woman, and this woman can say what she wants. I just kind of find it ironic, because at the end of the day, we're feeding into your ego when you're constantly out here like, hey, yeah, my dad killed someone too. Here's something I know. It's like, okay, we get it. Your dad's a serial killer. That doesn't make you an expert on weighing in on every other case. I mean, at the end of the day, you lived with your dad and didn't even know that he was out murdering people. So if anything, I think you're a little more clueless than the average person when it comes to stuff like this. That's just my opinion, but that's one thing I've noticed with true crime. And it happens with anything, but it's like this new phenomenon in true crime where grifters are attaching themselves to these cases in order to further their own agendas and popularity and things like that. And I don't know, there's just a few people that have infiltrated into this space that make me feel really iffy and weird. And one of them is like, what's her name? Jennifer Coffindaffer? I believe that's how you pronounce her name. An ex-FBI agent who is literally wrong about every single thing she ever puts out there. She's constantly involved in a lot of the cases that I cover, and she does nothing but spread false information. And to take it one step further, what she does is she goes on Facebook groups, she goes on Twitter, and she looks at what the real community is talking about. Now, I don't necessarily consider myself part of the true crime community. I cover true crime cases, but the more I learn and the more I know about the true crime community, the further I want to run away from it. The further I want to run away from it. Don't get me wrong. I love my subscribers. And I love the people who support my channel. And I like talking about these topics. I find them very interesting sometimes. But as far as this community goes, man, I don't want no parts of it. I don't want no parts of it, especially when this community looks up to people like Carrie and Jennifer Kohberger, which, like I said, I have really no problem with Carrie as much as I do the Jennifer chick, because like she goes on Facebook groups, she goes on Twitter, she goes into the community, and she basically gathers talking points and ideas that other people have, and then she goes on mainstream news outlets and she parrots those ideas as if they're her own. So throughout this Bryan Kohberger case, she's been constantly spreading this rumor about Bryan Kohberger being a Facebook user by the name of Papa Roger. Guys, if you're still following up with that nonsense months later, then please stop wasting your life. That's another problem that I have with the true crime community. They willingly waste their lives day in and day out on complete bogus nonsense. 8-hour live streams talking about nonsense, nonsensical things, looking at nothing. Just looking at nothing. And I have to question myself, like, do y'all not have anything better to do than to sit here for 8 hours and watch complete idiots point out nothing? It's really weird. But Jennifer Kohberger has been going crazy about this Bryan Kohberger is Papa Roger. He's this Facebook guy, Papa Roger. He's completely and literally not at all. Like, no, there's not a chance that he is. No, I don't care. Oh, well, this happened. No. What happens in true crime is some of these creators, they make you think there's a big deal when there's not a big deal. So they'll take a small little detail and they'll blow it out of proportion because that is what keeps you invested. In reality, they know they're full of shit. And I don't know how y'all don't know that, but they know that. Jennifer Kohberger knows she is full of shit constantly. And she has Papa Rogered her way into a new job. Her spreading these fake rumors and BS about the Idaho 4 case and Bryan Kohberger has now landed her a new job at News Nation, which is what she wanted all along. She grifted her way into a new job by pretending to be an ex-FBI expert. I've told you all time and time again, these ex-police officers, ex-FBI agents, they are all, not all of them, the majority of them are stupid, okay? They're stupid, which is why they are entering into YouTube. And they're not out, I don't know, doing real detective work and really working for the FBI or being a real police officer. No, all of these, oh, I'm ex this, I'm ex that. They do that to make you think that they are more important than the average YouTuber. They do that to make you think that their words and the things they say are more credible than the average person, when in reality, it's not. These are just average citizens that work the job that really know nothing. And Jennifer Kohberger is a perfect example of that. She never knows what she's talking about. When it sounds like she has a good idea, it's because she has stolen it from someone. She's stolen ideas directly from me and other people who I know. It happens all the time. And she's grifted her way into a new job. And that's why when I look at people like Carrie Ross and BTK's daughter, I look at them kind of sideways, because you have made a name for yourself. And basically you've made a career off the fact that you're the daughter of a serial killer, and you weigh in on all of these cases that you know nothing at all about. And the bad part is, when it comes to these type of people, they don't even do the research. That's the difference. Like, you have content creators on YouTube who spend hours upon hours upon hours out of their day researching these true crime cases so they can bring you all factual information. And shout out to those creators. But then we have these grifters like Jennifer Kohberger, and I believe Carrie Rawson may be one of these grifters as well, where they don't even really investigate. They don't look into the cases at all. They just know that by name alone and by association, hey, I'm a serial killer's daughter. Yeah, listen to my opinions. Oh, hey, I'm ex-FBI. Listen to my opinions. They try to ride the coattails of who they're affiliated with, and they don't even do the proper research into these cases. So that's why I sometimes have a problem with how much they weigh in on these cases because they literally don't know what they're talking about. They're writing off the fact that they were an FBI agent 30 years ago, or that their dad killed people and they didn't know about it 20 years ago. And then they use that for the rest of their lives as if they are some super credible source of information, when in reality they're not. And when in reality they don't even take the time to research these cases because they already know. All I have to tell these people is I'm an ex-FBI agent, and they'll automatically think that everything I say is so great. So that's what I think is going on here. I'm sorry that I had to go on this rant, and I'm sure some people will feel some type of way about it, but I don't care because I know I'm telling the truth. Also, I hate to have to do this because I'm on Carrie's side in this situation, but I would have to question, how do you know some of the stuff that you say you know? She talks about how she knows of these people who have grown these infatuations with her father and the letters they send her father, but supposedly she doesn't talk to her father at all, right? And I mean, these letters that women are writing, they're sending to her father in jail. It's not like her father is like, hey, daughter, look at this letter I got. So she's literally just talking. When you really think about it, and I know people are going to hate this, but really think about it. I'm not denying that BTK has a fan base and people sending him love letters and stuff, and there are women who've become obsessed with him. Yeah, I know that's the case. But she acts like she has all of this inside information about the connections and stuff. How? You don't talk to your father. You admittedly haven't talked to your father in years, or so you say. It's not like you have access to your father's mail. So in reality, you're just saying things that sound good for the news. Now, as far as these women go who attach themselves to killers and are attracted to them, we've talked about this a little bit before. I know that they create names for everything. I don't really like applying labels because a lot of these labels are nonsense. But I think it goes back to the earliest days of humanity, and it shows the animalistic nature of humans in a way. Where some humans, or some women in particular, they're attracted to men who are killers and stuff like that. Because that used to attract women thousands of years ago, or hundreds of years ago. Seeing a fierce warrior, seeing someone who was capable of killing someone and taking someone's life. It sounds barbaric and disgusting now, but back in the day, that was something that a woman might actually like. And I think in today's world, when a woman sees that, oh, a man took someone's life, and it's sick and it's twisted, don't get me wrong, but I think it goes back to how animalistic we are in nature. And some women see like, oh, he was overpowering someone and he killed someone. And for some reason, that makes them feel protected. As if he wouldn't do the same thing to you. For some reason, it makes them feel protected. Like, oh, this is a powerful man that was able to, assert himself and be dominant in these situations. This man dominated his victims, and for some reason, some women like that. And it's creepy. It's creepy. And it's weird knowing that, there are guys out there who are successful. They've done everything right in life. They got an education. They got a good upbringing. They got a good job. And they're having a hard time getting women. Meanwhile, you got serial killers with fan bases. And look at Bryan Kohberger. People are labeling him an incel. We've heard that he had trouble getting women. But I think the dude looks weird. I'm a guy. As a woman, you can let me know how you all feel about Kohberger's appearance. At the end of the day, he doesn't look too grotesque to have a woman. At the end of the day, he had a car. He had his own place. He had an education. He was going to further his education. If you really look at Bryan Kohberger and you take this crime out of it, and you look at Bryan Kohberger, he had all the makings of something a woman should want. He had all the makings of a young man that was going to go on to be a very successful young man. But him being successful, him having a drive for his education, all of that, none of that was good enough. None of that attracted women. But now, that this dude's going to be behind bars probably for the rest of his life. Now that we know that he allegedly killed 4 people, now women are interested. Is that not weird to you all? Is that not weird to you all? But this is a perfect example of how society is. I mean, this is a more of an extreme example, but it happens to a lesser extent every day. A lot of women are gravitated towards men who are worthless, who are trash, who are scumbags, who are pretend to be thugs or pretend to be hardcore or what have you, while fully educated young men who have a good head on their shoulders and a good future ahead of them are having a hard time getting women in today's climate. It's really weird, but that's life, and that's how the world works, and it's only going to get worse. I appreciate you all, though, for sticking with me through this rant. Let me know what you think about this video down in the comments. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all in the next video. And always, remember, remain opinionated.